Hello, this is the Elektra Beckum HC260 combination planer thicknesser, or jointer planer if you're in the USA, and I bought it second-hand almost 9 years ago now. It's a great machine that has served me really well aside from a few small niggles. I want to upgrade this machine for 3 reasons. Firstly, switching from planer to thicknesser mode and vice versa can be pretty cumbersome and time-consuming. Some of the more modern planer thicknessers have tilting tables which are much more convenient to use, and it bothers me that I have to find somewhere to put the spare parts of the table and the fence when the machine is in thicknesser mode, because when you're working on a project, wherever you put them, they always seem to get in the way. Secondly, dust extraction when in planer mode is poor. Chips fly everywhere. My extractor is only 1 horsepower, but still I think it should be able to cope with those chips better than it does. I don't know whether there might have been something missing when I bought it, but I'm not sure how this hood is meant to secure to this one. I've always just used a couple of small G-clamps to hold the shroud in place. Thirdly, while it's great for milling smaller bits of timber, I've found out its limitations when working with larger bits of timber. It's just not accurate enough, creating discrepancies which then need to be rectified. Additionally, I also find these ridges on the inside really annoying. They catch and hold onto the chips, which makes it a little bit awkward and annoying to clear out. Over the years, I've replaced both the drive belt and a rubber feed roller, as well as blades obviously, so it's also great that components for this machine are readily available to buy. And that's because these machines are still made, but nowadays they are sold under the Metabo name. Now onto my requirements for a new machine. Firstly, budget as always is a big factor. Ideally, I don't want to spend more than £1,500, but when I start to look at the options, that definitely becomes a limiting factor. So I'm going to be looking at all of the options up to around £2,000. Ideally, I want it to run on a regular UK 3-pin plug. Some of the machines need a 16 amp supply. I do have 16 amp power in my workshop for my table saw already, but I'd like to avoid the expense of doing more electrical work if possible, especially seeing as I already have loads of regular 13 amp sockets right where the machine is going to sit. You might assume that as I'm upgrading that I'll want to go for one of those fancy spiral head cutter blocks with carbide blades, but I'm a little bit on the fence about that, to be honest. I've always got on great with regular planing knives and I can resharpen them myself, so it's quick and easy for me to put a clean edge on them and carry on working. And I've seen a video by Ben at Hue and Orr about the carbide blades being troublesome to replace. And that situation looked a bit nightmarish to me, but having chatted to Ben about it since then, he says the pros outweigh the cons and maybe he's just been unlucky with his machine. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure which route to go. Also, the more knives the better, whether that's regular planer knives, so for example 3 knives on a cutter block is always going to leave a better finish than 2, or with the carbide cutters, 66 is better than 44, for example. In terms of width capacity and height inside the thicknesser, the bigger the better as far as I'm concerned. The more powerful the motor, the better, and I'll also need a mobile base as I need to be able to pull it out from the wall when milling longer bits of timber. Finally, I want something that I'm really going to enjoy using. I'm viewing this as a bit of a forever tool purchase. So let's have a look through the available options, which I'm going to pop on a spreadsheet and then color code based on my requirements. And I can split these machines into 3 categories. The first category has only one machine in it, which is the LumberJack PT305. It's the lowest price machine on the list, the only one under £1,000, and it's also one of only 2 12-inch or 305mm width capacity machines. Unfortunately though, power to the machine seems to be an issue, similarly to the issue I highlighted when I reviewed their fantastic but electrically problematic TS1800 table saw. It has been known to trip electrics unless certain requirements are met, and apparently it's now sold without a plug so that it can be wired into a 16 amp supply, even though some people have been able to run it successfully on a regular 3-pin plug. To change between planer and thicknesser mode, one half of the bed lifts up, which isn't as convenient as some of the models that I'll be looking at later, as you have to manually secure the dust hood in each mode, and for me, that's a bit of a deal breaker. I want a machine where it's as quick and easy as possible to switch between modes. It looks to be a good machine for the money though, and there's even going to be a spiral head cutter available separately for it in future, or so I'm told. But I'm thinking that I will probably have to rule this one out as it doesn't tick all the boxes for me. But I will just quickly mention that I have a 5% off discount code for LumberJack, so if you're interested in any of their tools, use the code RAGANDBONE at checkout. The next category of machines is a slight step up in price. These convert from planer to thicknesser mode by lifting 2 tables separately, this time with a flipping dust hood, which looks to be a big improvement over that of the LumberJack in my opinion. These are the Charnwood W583 and the Record Power PT10S, and they appear to be quite similar machines. They both have 3 knives on the cutter block, which for me would be an upgrade from my current machine, which only has 2. They also both have a regular 3-pin plug. The Record Power has the more powerful motor at 2200 watts compared with the Charnwood's 1500 watts. The next step up in price are the machines which convert from planer to thicknesser by lifting 1 bed as opposed to 2. These are the easiest to switch between modes. They are also the most expensive. There's the Axminster AW2260S, Charnwood PT10S, iTech 260SS, and the Record Power PT310. And most of these have spiral cutter blocks too, the one exception being the Record Power, which has 3 planer knives. Of these options, unfortunately, only the Axminster runs on a regular 3-pin plug. That machine has the least powerful motor at 1500 watts, and it has the least carbide cutters too, at only 24 in total. And when you look at that cutter block, it does look a bit pathetic. It seems like Axminster have done everything they can to bring this machine in at a lower price point than some of the other competitors. But I do have to question whether 24 cutters is enough. And looking at the pictures, it just doesn't give me any confidence in its ability to do a good job with that few cutters. Unfortunately, there are no reviews of this machine on YouTube, and I did reach out to Axminster because I'd be really keen to review this, but getting responses from them has been like getting blood out of a stone. Of the other options in this category, the Charnwood has a much more usual looking 44 blade cutter block, and the iTech has a generous 66. But that's the most expensive machine on the list, going just over the £2,000 budget. The Record Power also looks a good option with its 3 knives and generous additional width capacity, but any of those 3 options would require electrical work here in my workshop. It wasn't until after filming this video that I found an additional couple of options online, which are apparently becoming available this month, October 2023. There are helical head cutter blocks becoming available for the Record Power PT10S, and the information online at the moment is limited, but I emailed one of the suppliers to find out more. There'll be a version available with 26 cutters, which is similar to the Axminster cutter block, so I assume it's been brought out to try and compete. That's going to be priced at around £1,700, and one with 44 cutters priced at around £2,000. And both of these machines will run on a regular UK 3-pin plug. And then things got even more complicated. After doing a weekly update for my channel members on Patreon, Will from Jorvik Workshop mentioned another machine that I wasn't even aware of, which falls within my budget, so I'm going to add that to the list of contenders too. This is the Hammer A226, priced at 1434, and it fits within my second category of machines with 2 lifting beds and 3 knives rather than a helical head. I gave the Felder Group a quick call as I couldn't find on their website whether it needed a 13 amp or 16 amp supply, and unfortunately it's another 16 amp machine, which kills it for me. However, their machines do have a quick change self-setting cutter block design, which sounds interesting and apparently is only available from the Felder Group machines. I really hate to leave things on a cliffhanger, but I am absolutely stumped on this one. Usually, as soon as I start color coding my spreadsheet and sorting it in price order, the right machine for me usually suggests itself, but this time I really don't know what to do. But I have come up with a few options. Option 1 is to stick with planer knives and get either the Charnwood W583 or the Record Power PT10S. Either would still be a big upgrade for me, but I feel like I might come to regret not going with one of the 1-bed lift options. Option 2 is to take a punt on the AW2260S with its worryingly minimal looking cutter block. And option 3 is to stretch the budget significantly, get some electrical work done to add a 16 amp socket, and go for either the Charnwood PT10S or the iTech 260SS. And option 4 is to consider one of the new helical cutter block versions of the Record Power PT10S and forego that 1-bed lift option. So I want to open this one up to you, the viewers. What would you do in my situation? Please let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching.